Well, good morning, everyone. Quick trivia question. Who can name the movie that song came from? Zootopia, right out there. Well done, sir. You win the prize this morning. Yes, it's a great song that we think kind of illustrates what we're talking about over the next 4 weeks, which is family, and that there's ups and there's downs, there's successes and there's failures, but we keep trying. Why? Because we love these people so much through the good and the bad. And as I said, we're starting our 4-week series called Vertical Family today, and we couldn't be more excited about it. My name is Ryan Morrill. I'm the Kids and Family Director, and we're so glad you're here. If this is your first time at Kensington, you're checking us out in this new year, want to make sure you know, out in the lobby, following the service, we have an area called Starting Point. People in orange shirts that are there to answer any questions you have, help point you in any direction you need to go, and help you figure out how to get connected here, because we would love for you to make Kensington your church home in 2017. So please, if you want more information about this place, stop by the Starting Point area directly outside of these doors following service. Coming up in 2 weeks, we have what we call our leadership gathering. We do this twice a year, and it's taking place January 20th and 21st down at our Troy campus. And what this is, it's a chance for all of our Kensington campuses to come together for 2 days to hear about vision, get pumped up and excited about what's happening in 2017, and a chance just to be together, because it's tough when we're split up all over the state, literally, and even all over the nation. And so we hope that you come and be a part of this with us. If you're a leader anywhere in this place, you're a small group leader with kids, students, you're an usher greeter, you work in any one of our ministries in any capacity throughout the week, we would love you to be a part of that. That's what it was originally created for. But even more, if you are just starting to get your kind of dip your toe in the water here, you really want to be a key part of this team, you want to make an impact here, we hope you would choose to sign up and go to the event as well. It'd be a great chance to get mobilized and motivated for what's coming up. So the way you do that is go to kensingtonchurch.org/lead, and it's going to be a great time. Dave and Ann are going to be sharing on Friday night just some things that are stirring in their heart, and some new things that I think we've even experienced a little bit here at Orion. They're going to be sharing that for the whole church as well, so you're going to want to hear that. Final thing, second thing this morning, out in the lobby next weekend. This is not this weekend, but next weekend, we have what we call a connection fair. And this can be, especially at this service, it can be a little overwhelming, a very large place as you're trying to figure out how you can connect here. And what we try to do is to make this big place feel a little bit smaller. And we do that through groups, through small groups. And next weekend out in the lobby, we're going to have a fair, so to speak, where you can go out and investigate and find a small group that, one, maybe meets in your area that is close to home, but also kind of meets your place of life. Whether it's a men's group, women's group, couples group, young marrieds, I not say old marrieds, that doesn't sound good. But you know what I'm saying. We have singles groups, you name it. They will be taking place and launching in 2017 here. And we'd love for you to make that commitment, especially if you're thinking, gosh, what am I going to do this year? How am I going to jump in? How am I going to grow with Jesus, but also get to know other people? A great way to do that. We'll also highlight out there many of the things that happen throughout this place every single night of this week. This place is packed every single night of the week. Monday nights, we have our Alpha courses, which is a chance to dive deeper into the Bible, understand what it's about. We have groups take place there. Tuesday nights, we have our care ministries here, which is Grief Share, Beyond Divorce, or Divorce Recovery, as well as CR, which is Celebrate Recovery for those coming out of addiction and it's just strongholds in their life. We have groups in those as well. Love for you to check that out if that's something you're interested in. And Thursdays, we have Insights, Women's Bible Studies, and throughout the week, Men's Dig Bible Studies. So great opportunities. So check that out next week. And they're all listed in your program, by the way, on the bottom flap, if that's something you'd like to look at and think about as well. Final thought today, following service, we're hoping we have enough of these left. They've been going like hotcakes, but Dave and Ann are going to talk about this. We have a family prayer journal experience, so to speak. We call it #FamilyPray30. And what we're hoping as we go through this 4-week series is that families will make disciplined decisions to come together, what we hope is daily, to pray together, because when families pray together, we believe great things happen. And so we have these booklets out at the north end of the lobby out here for you to take and help you through that. There's literally 30 days of prayers in here and questions to help your family dialogue as you go through each and every day. So pick one of these up. We'll take a picture of your family and put it on there as well. Dave and Ann will talk more about it. So you're in for a great beginning to this series today. I'm so excited about it. Dave and Ann are going to share a great message. Before we get into that, though, love for you to stand up and greet a few people around you.
I've been changing channels, I don't see them on the TV shows. Where'd all the good people go? We got heaps and heaps of what we sow. They got this and that with a rattle-a-tat test and 1, 2. Now what you gonna do? Bad news, misuse, got too much to lose. Give me some truth now, whose side are we on? Whatever you say, turn on the boob tube. I'm in the mood to obey, so lead me astray.
We have children now, so I watch. My wife and I, we have 2 beautiful kids, so I watch a lot of Dora the Explorer. That's a good show. I'd probably watch that if I didn't have kids. Dora the Explorer. First of all, did the producers think that rhymes? Dora the Explorer. Maybe that rhymes in the Kennedy household. Put on Dora the Explorer.
I also have a 9-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. I have 5 kids. I used to have more, but I ate them. 5 kids. I love it, but I don't know what happened. 10 years ago, I couldn't get a date. And now my apartment's literally crawling with babies. It's like I left peanut butter out or something. The best is when I'm alone with my 5 kids and inevitably struggling, and some stranger will come up to me and go, looks like you got your hands full. Why would you say that? It's like going up to someone in a wheelchair. Looks like you don't do a lot of dancing.
And there are people in this room who do have children, and there are people in this room who don't have children. And the people who don't have children, they think they know, don't they? They think they know. They know what it means to have children. Sometimes they chat about it, don't they, in their little couples? You know, oh, I'd love to start a family one day with you. It'd be lovely. You'd make a really good dad. Oh, I think you'd be an amazing mum. It'd be so, wouldn't it be so lovely having little versions of you and me running around? I'd love to have a family. And you think you know what you're talking about. You have no idea. You have no idea what it's like. You have no idea how difficult things will become in your life. Things that you don't even consider to be things will become nearly impossible when you have children. I'm talking about things like leaving the house, for example. This is how people without children leave the house. Shall we leave the house? Yes. This is how I leave the house almost every day. Lucas, Oscar, come downstairs. We're late. Why aren't you downstairs? Put your shoes on. I don't know where my shoes are. Put your shoes on. Go and find your shoes. Where did you see them last? On my feet. After that, get your shoes on. Come here, come here. Arms up, arms in, arms in, arms up, arms in. That's my wife. She's so tired, she can't dress herself. Driving. You go driving. You're driving cars, don't you? Driving along. Yay. What's the biggest drama you have to put up with? Oh, it's a bit chilly. Oh, put the blower on. Oh, that's nice now. Oh, look, they've opened a new Carluccio. We should go there. We could go there any night. We could go there any night. Oh, what's this song? I love this one. Freedom! Freedom! I strap my children into the car. I work out what'll cut off the blood supply, then I ease it a bit. Stay there! We try and behave normally. Oh, what's this song? It's The Wheels on the Bus Go Again! Again! Look, there's a new Carluccio's there. We will never go there.
Is that true? That is so true. That guy, Mike McIntyre. Is that right, Mike? Yeah, that's his name. He's a comedian. You got to watch this whole stick. It's so good. So we're going to talk about that sort of for 4 weeks. If you don't know who we are, this is David. This is Ann Wilson.
Hi, I'm Ann Wilson.
She's actually been sick all week, so we gave her a handheld so when she coughs, you don't have to hear it. Because if you cough on one of these, you'll hear it the whole time. So we've raised 3 sons, and they're all married now. We have 2 grandkids, and that means we're old. That's what that means. But tell them about how different their worlds are.
Our middle son, Austin, and his wife, Kendall, live in Denver. And so right before Christmas, I was out there with their 2-year-old and their 2-month-old. And this one night, we're all sitting on the couch, and Austin and Kendall have their kids. Cody and Jenna, our younger kids who are in California going to school, I text them and said, what are you guys doing tonight? And Cody sends this picture.
This is without kids.
Right.
This is what they do.
So Cody's like, I'm just listening to worship music. Jenna's reading one of our books from school. You know, we're just chilling tonight. And Austin and Kendall, the ones that have the kids, saw that. They're like, oh my gosh, their life is so easy. I said, do you want me to send them a picture of your life right now? They said, yes, take a picture of us and send it. So this is what we sent back to Austin, to Cody and Jenna. It's like just to think about laying on the couch without having a child on top of you is kind of amazing.
I mean, you look at that stage, and some of you are in that stage now. I remember that stage. It's just pure chaos, isn't it? I mean, you see, look at Kendall. She's like, oh my gosh, I just had a baby. I just want to go to sleep. Anyway, it's a tough stage. So we went through that, and we're going to take 4 weeks and look at different parts of that. But, family can be awesome, can be wonderful, and there are those beautiful, wonderful moments. Like once every 10 years. And then there's the chaos and the hecticness of the whole thing, right? Tell them about our trip to Colorado.
Like one of the values for me and for Dave too, I kind of talked him into this, is to do a vacation every single year. And we haven't had a lot of money, so we've just had to really figure out how to do that.
I actually did not want to do vacations every year. She brought that to our family because their family did that. I grew up in a single household. We had no money. We never went on vacation. So I didn't think it was that important. And Ann's like, we got to do this every year. So guess what? We did it every year.
And honestly, one of the reasons I want to do is because we heard this guy named, I forget. Gary Stanley said, if I'm going to give you the secret to great families, here it is. Go camping. I'm like, okay, I'm never doing that. But he said, when you do things that cause like strife, it builds your family. So I'm like, let's do vacations that are really cheap.
Yeah, whatever. So we did cheap vacations, and we were driving across the country after Easter one year, 2002, I guess. And I had just done, back then when we did Easter, you did all of them. So we didn't have all the campuses, and you split them up. Like, we only had to do 10. So I did like 18 in a row, and I had to get on a plane and fly and meet them. They had already taken off, and I was going to meet them in St. Louis and then go the rest of the way.
We couldn't afford to off-fly, and so the 3 boys and I, they were 11, 13, and 16. We got in the car, we drove to St. Louis to pick Dave up at the airport. And it was one of the best trips, car trips. Like, we're laughing, they're doing videos. I was thinking, this is the most fun trip ever.
How old were they?
I just said that.
Oh,
yeah,
I didn't hear.
okay.
I should listen to when she talks.
So you guys, we have this big car top carrier on. We're all going to snowboard. We had free tickets to the to ski.
Hear that? Free. We had free lodging. Friends were going to let us stay in their basement.
So we get to the airport, and we've got this big car top carrier on. So we're laughing like, hey, we're going to go get Dad. And we get to the garage. I forgot the car top carrier was on. No kidding, right? So I hit that thing, and there's this big crack. And the worst thing was, and I'm pure sweat. I'm so anxious. They're cars that are, it's a single file line going in. I've probably got 8 cars behind me. So what do? So I get out, and I'm motioning like, and the boys are getting out with, I'm like, get out of the car and tell the cars to get out of here. So they're all backing up because of I'm so dumb. So I'm stressing so bad, and I'm also laughing of how can I be so dumb? We get to the top of the car garage, and there's a different way to get up there, and we get out there, and that car top carrier is broken. So what are we going to do with all our stuff? It was horrible, and so I have to pick up Dave. So CJ's 16. I get out, I put my hand on him. It's like, CJ, I'm going to pray that God will do a miracle through you. And so I'm like, Jesus, please use CJ and do a miracle, just like feeding multiplying the bread, fix our car top carrier. Please, God, Dave's going to kill me. Amen. And we run to the airport and get Dave.
She makes it sound like I'm a tyrant.
I'm thinking like money. I'm like all that stuff.
Oh, that is true. I'd probably, be upset.
So we get back to the car. We get Dave. I'm scared to death to even tell him about it. I tell him, we get back. CJ goes, I fixed it. I fixed the car top carrier. He really did, too.
He had like bungee cords and duct tape, and it was going to make it.
It was awesome. But the worst part was, here's what happened. Have you ever done this? We get in the car. We had been having such a good time. Suddenly, Dave is so stressed. He's so taxed. We're going to go spend money doing this. He's in a terrible mood. And all I can think about was, I sat there watching him thinking, it was so much more fun before you got here. Do you know what I mean? Those vacations where somebody wrecks it? Like you're wrecking it for us.
What do you want me to say?
And then I remember this. He didn't even remember this. I remember pushing the cart at the grocery store when we got to our place, crying the whole time, like, this is going to be the worst vacation. I don't even like Dave. And now I look back and I think, oh yeah, tell them what else happened. You go to the other part.
Oh, so then we went skiing, right? And again, I was really, I was a bad mood for like 3 days.
You got better.
I did. So we get to the ski resort, and Cody is so frustrated that we're taking so long, get our boards on, get everything on. He literally jumps on the ski lift. He's 11, right? Yeah. And takes off.
We don't even know where he is. Like, we look around, he's gone.
He thinks we're at Pine Knob. You know, where you get on a thing and you're off in 1 minute. You know, it's like 3 miles at Snowmass. You're going all the way up. He's gone, right? And then CJ, our oldest, was 16. We're like, CJ, it's spring break. It's sunny. You need sunscreen. He's like, no, I don't. He goes like that. He ends up in the hospital that night with blisters. His whole face broke out into impetigo. And I know what he did this, because when we got there, they're like, there's a handprint and a handprint, and everything else was he literally spent the night. It was horrible.
It was awful.
You know, he couldn't even go out the next day.
And here's the thing, you guys. We're going to show you this picture because this was our trip.
This is us at Snowmass.
And if you see that on social media, you're like, wow, what an amazing, perfect family on the perfect trip.
We're all smiling. We act like we love each other.
And here's the truth. We look back on that. There were so many catastrophes. Honestly, one of the best vacations we ever took. And isn't that a great description of family? Like, there's things that go wrong, but later you laugh about it, but there's something beautiful about it, and yet really hard.
And so here's what we're going to do. For the next 4 weeks, we're going to talk about family. And we call it vertical family. We'll explain that in a second. But it really is, we hope, a series for all families. And there's all kinds of families. You know that. And there's singles in here right now thinking, is this for me? Yeah. You're part of a family, whether you're connected very close to that family or not. This is about family, and a lot of this will be about parenting. Even today is sort of a 30,000 feet look at what is the goal as parents in a vertical family raising kids. But I just want you to know, the entire time we know there's broken families sitting here, there are divorced families, blended families. In fact, let me say this to the blended families, because it's a whole different dynamic. All the things we talk about will apply, but if you don't know this name, you need to know this name. You need to get his material. Ron Deal, D-E-A-L, just like deal a card. Get his stuff, the best stuff for blended families in the country. No questions asked. Ron Deal. But every family looks different, but every family has similar things. And basically it's this. It's wonderful, it's awesome, it's beautiful, it's horrible, it's crazy. I can't wait to get out. It's just all the above at the same time, right? You have hopefully some mountaintop moments, and you struggle often, right? And so even that trip was just say, and by the way, you know this, but in no way was our family or is our family a perfect family or even close. I mean,
and our kids are not and never have been perfect. Like, we have failed and they have failed too. So we want to lay that out there. Do not think that Dave and I have had this all together our whole lives, because we haven't.
And again, today is point 1 of a 4-point message. All right? So next week is point 2 and point 3 and point 4. So we're only going to cover sort of a vision, a big picture, okay? We're not going to get super practical today. The rest of the series, I hope you'll feel like is very practical. And I think today is as well. But the question we want to answer today is this: what are we trying to do? Because if you would go out and ask most parents, whether they go to church or not go to church, what are you trying to raise? What's your goal? What's your mission? What's your target? What's your destination? What do you want your kids to be as adults? Most parents would sort of look at you like, never really thought about that. I mean, you do, but it's like, man, if we don't know where we're trying to get to with our kids, then we don't know how to get there.
If you shoot at nothing, you'll hit it. Basically, if you have no target, you're not going to hit anything. And I think even for you, as I was going to say, for singles, or if you're married without kids, I would really encourage you to start thinking about this, because once you have kids, you won't have any time to think about it, basically. So this is a great time to start thinking about it. So what are you going to aim for?
Yeah, and every person, whether you're a parent or not, I think God calls us to mentor someone. Yes. And this would be what you want to mentor them toward. I'm not kidding. The same thing a parent's trying to do in a vertical family is what I think we all should try to do. I'll start with a quote by a guy named Andy Stanley. You might know that name, pastor at North Point down in Atlanta. He said this years ago, and I've never forgotten it. He said, your greatest contribution to the kingdom of God may not be something you do, but someone you raise. And man, as you think of that as a parent, I mean, it really hit me. It's like, man, it's real easy to think that my greatest contribution to the kingdom is stuff I do. Like lead Kensington or lead even this campus or preach here on weekends, or even as a Christian, it's like studying the Bible and maybe being in a small group or leading a small group. You think that's the greatest thing you can do for the kingdom. Well, those are all good things. They're awesome. But if you're a parent, I would invite you to rethink. The greatest thing I may do is who I pour into. Even if you're not a parent, who am I leaving and sending to the next generation? What am I doing with that? So I mean, it's just a great way to start. So here's the question. So what are you trying to raise? And I think we really should have an answer for that. What are we trying to raise? Now here's the difference, and here's what vertical means. If you think horizontally, when I say horizontally, I mean planet Earth and just mankind, human thinking. If you would ask most people, what are you trying to raise with your kids? Probably you'd hear things like this. And I don't know for sure, but I've asked enough people to know you hear things like, well, I want my kids to be well-rounded and well-educated and successful and popular and happy. You know, I hope that when they're adults, they'll be happy. Those are all wonderful things, right? There's nothing wrong with any of those things. But if that's the goal, I honestly think that's too low. I think God would say, that's not even close to the bar I've got for you. It's so much grander. Because, I mean, well-rounded means they get involved in everything. And by the way, do we live in a culture that says get your kid in every thinking event possible at school and sports? Yeah. So we do that. And trust me, we did it. And I'm telling you, when I go to hire somebody at Kensington, I'm not looking for well-rounded people. I'm looking for skilled people at one thing. It's really interesting. It's like, well-rounded is a great goal, but it's not the best goal. To know, and we'll talk about this next week, to see what your child was made to do and encourage that is a lot better than be well-rounded. Well-educated, man, we worship at the altar of education. I mean, we want our kids to be educated. Oh, definitely going to college. You know, I get the whole thing, right? And yet we have an entire culture of well-educated people with no character. Character is a higher goal than well-educated. Nothing wrong with well-educated. I mean, that's awesome. Or happy. Think about that one. I mean, God, our whole goal in life is to be happy, and it's like, wow, is that the ultimate goal? I think it's a low goal. I think a vertical perspective, think about what Jesus said.
Yeah, what would he say?
What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? What does it profit a man to gain what the world says is good, well-educated, well-educated, happy, successful, popular, and lose his soul? He says, no, there's something much deeper and richer that's more important than just this horizontal perspective. I think he would say, go vertical. What's go vertical mean? It means look up and find my life from Christ vertically. We talked about this last year in vertical marriage, that in your marriage, your spouse will always at some point let you down. You'll never be fulfilled from your spouse, both ways, and you'll think, I married the wrong person and I need to find the right person, and then you get remarried and the same thing happens. The problem is we're looking the wrong place. We'll never be filled by a human being. That's horizontal. You're filled vertically, and when you go vertical in your marriage and you go vertical in your family, it's like, okay, what does God want to do with our family? So you get a whole different perspective on what matters.
And I think what happens is kids want a bigger purpose. Our kids, like especially if you're living in Oakland County, they have a lot. They've been offered a lot. They've been exposed to a lot. And it's still, they're searching. They're like, who am I? And for us to be able to go vertical offers them a perspective of who they are and whose they are. Like God loves you and has something for you. We'll talk about that more next week, but it puts a burning anticipation in their hearts and in our hearts. Like, don't you want to live out what God made you to do? Like, don't you want to discover who you are and what he's made you to do on this planet? Because that's what brings life. And that's what we want in our families. Of course we want them to be happy. But sometimes even happiness, sometimes the things that have brought us the hardest things have shaped us into being the best people. And so I think the vertical part is essential.
And so we're going to talk about, okay, if you go vertical, what might that look like? We're actually going to give you a sample sort of mission statement or mission goal, vision goal for your family. And we're not saying take this as yours. This is just an example. One of your assignments this week, we're going to give you 2 assignments. One of them is to write a mission statement for your family. If you got little kids, man, what a great time to do it. If they've already raised, still do it.
I would
Sit
say if
down
you're
and
a
say,
grandparent,
Yeah.
maybe it's time to have a new mission statement, even just for your grown kids, but maybe another one for your grandkids.
Yeah, grandparents can have amazing impact. So we're going to give you one. And it really came to me, I mean, we've been working on this for years, and even the last couple of weeks, how we're going to reshape, because we talked so many times at Kensington about family and marriage. You've heard everything Dave and Ann know. And you're like, don't give us the same stuff. So literally yesterday, sitting in a hotel room in Seattle. Do I need to go there? It was a horrible game.
He got home at 7 a.m. this morning.
6 a.m. Yeah, we always fly right back on a charter. The team does right afterwards. So we left there at 2 a.m. your time and landed at 5:30. So yeah, anyway, I'm in a fog right now. But our season's over. I'm a little sad. Anyway, but yeah, so yesterday I'm sitting there and Ann and I were talking back and forth, and I'm rephrasing some of the things, and God took me to Psalm 71. It's this interesting. It's like David isn't like giving you his mission for his family, but he writes like this journal entry, and it just hit me. There it is. He's thinking about what kind of legacy do I leave. Let me read it to you. He says this: even when I'm old and gray, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation, your mighty acts to all who are to come. So his whole thing is about, it's a psalm, and he's sort of writing this to God, says, man, I'm getting old. God, would you stay with me to the very end? For what purpose? Here it is, mission. For what mission? To declare what? What God's done in me, I want to pass that on to the next generation, that they may know your mighty acts. In other words, he's saying, you've done some stuff in me they've never heard or seen, and I want to be able to give that. So don't leave me, be with me. I need your presence and I need your power so that I can give that to my children and grandchildren and to the next generation. I thought, there it is. That's sort of the mission of what a vertical family mission is. So here's what I wrote. We wrote sort of this, and you can write this down or take a picture of it on the screen or whatever, but it says this: God calls us, and this is vertical family or parents, God calls us and empowers us to train warriors who will display the power and love of God to the next generation. That sort of captures, in my mind, Psalm 71. God calls us, we're going to talk about each one of these phrases, and empowers us to do what? Train warriors. We're not just raising kids. We got to get a bigger vision than I'm just raising kids who I hope are happy someday and have a nice house and a couple dogs and a couple kids, and I mean, all those things are wonderful. There's nothing wrong with any of those things, but like, man, I want an eternal perspective that's bigger than that. I want to train warriors who will display or declare the power of God they've seen in their home and the love of God. So there's this strength and power, this mighty acts part, and there's also this grace and tenderness, the love of God. What are they doing? They're giving that to the next generation. To a generation we as parents may never get to see through grandkids and great-grandkids, this heritage, this legacy. And I got to tell you, for some of us in the room, it's like we got that from our parents and we continue it. For a lot more of us in this room, maybe like me, we didn't see anything like that in our home. I had 2 alcoholic parents, a dad who committed adultery and left. I didn't see any of this. And so it's an angst in my soul is we changed the legacy, starting right here. Some of you had that in you, right? It said, as for me and my house, Joshua 24, right? As for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I don't know what your house is doing. I don't know what my neighbors are doing. For me and my house, and my dad didn't do this, my mom didn't do this, that's okay. For the Wilsons starting right now, we will serve the Lord. So it's like this whole new vision that's so much grander than anything anybody had ever given to me before. It's like God calls us and empowers us to train warriors to declare his power and love to the next generation.
And when I look at this mission statement too, the thing that I think was, when our kids were growing up, there was a part of me that was really fearful. Fearful that the world would mold them into its mold. Fearful that they would become what the world was basically producing. And when I look at this, I think, but what if I lived instead of fear, of anticipation, of thinking, I don't need to be afraid. As we go into this, you'll see, but what if my kids were the ones that changed the atmosphere, that changed their generation, that changed, instead of feeling like, oh no, they're just gonna become that. What if I didn't live in that, but what if I trusted God to empower me and to empower them, that as we go through this whole series, that when our kids walk in the room, they're going to walk in with the power of God, and they will be warriors. And we'll talk more what that looks
And we
like.
talk about this in our home every once in a while. Most people are thermometers. Very few people are thermostats. Seriously. And we wanted to raise thermostats because thermometers just record the temperature. They just mold in. Whatever the culture's saying, they do. Thermostats come in and say, no, we're changing the temperature. We're going somewhere nobody's going. And man, that is a high calling of God to have that as your bar. It's like, oh my gosh, that's what we're trying to raise.
And it looks different with each kid. Like if you guys saw our youngest kid, he's like that. Our
Cody.
other kids are very different. You know, when you say, oh, are they changing the, you know, it looks different for each of our kids, but those are the goals. And to celebrate who they are.
So we'll break down this vision real quick. And by the way, again, all we're trying to do in week 1 is give you a vision. We're not getting real practical. It's just, what is the destination you're going for? We started this mission statement with this: God calls us. And all that means is this: parenting, doing family in the vertical way is a high calling. It's a holy calling of God. One of the verses that we love is Psalm 127. It says, behold, children are a gift of the Lord. We'll talk about this next week, but there are many times you don't think that's true. It's like, that's a gift, please. You know, it's like, you know, but they are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward, like arrows in the hands of a warrior. See this battle motif? Arrows in the hand of a warrior. So are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. You know, it's this picture that your children are like something you're launching to what? The next generation. That's what Stanley was talking about. Is the most important thing I do for the kingdom is maybe somebody I raise, because we're launching. An arrow is at a target. It's to make an impact. It's to make a difference. And so it's this high calling. In fact, it's the highest calling in some ways. I remember I used to think when I would drive home from work, and I'm sure many of you feel the same way, moms and dads, all of us feel the same way. You're driving home. You ever have this thought, I am so exhausted. When I get home, I just need 30 minutes to just recharge. I can't do anything for 30 minutes. So you're driving home. If you've got little kids in the home or teenagers in the home, your wife or whoever's at home is like, they're thinking the same thing.
Or you're both coming home from work.
Yeah, and when you get home, it's like, and I remember I'd come home and Ann be with the kids, and she'd just throw them at me, like, here, take them for the next hour. I'm done. You know, she's just exhausted because they're little and they're clung to her like Velcro and snot all over her legs. It was just, we'll talk about that stage next week, the 0 to 12 stage. But I'd walk in and she'd throw the kids and I'd be resentful right away. No, here you go. Honey, you don't understand. I had a hard day. She's like, you think you had a hard day? You play that game, who had the hardest day type deal, right? We do that all the time. And so there's this tug of war between the kids. And I'll never forget the year I heard a guy say, your most important calling in life if you're a dad or a mom or your kids. And I was like, wow, that's a different perspective, because I would have probably thought my most highest calling is a pastor, a spiritual leader, to lead a flock of people. And when I heard that, I'm like, no, the most important people I need to disciple are not you. And I don't mean that you don't matter, but compared to my kids, sorry. But they're my 3 disciples, my most important. So I remember learning to have a drop-off point on the way home from Kensington. It was on Livernois Road. Every day I'd go by this place and I'd take Kensington and I'd put it in this mail slot, and I'd take dad and husband and I'd pick it up and put it on. And when I pulled in the driveway, instead of being like, I need a break, I need to go, God, empower me to be the spiritual man my wife needs as a husband and dad these boys need. I don't have it. I'm exhausted. That's the second part. God calls us and what? Empowers us.
Wait, let me go back to the call part.
Okay, go back.
Here's the thing that I want to emphasize too, is if you have kids in your home, what we do as parents is a lot of times we're comparing ourselves and our spouse to other parents. I think it's really important, and as I got older as a parent, I realized that God doesn't want me to compare myself or to become like somebody else as a parent, because he's given me kids in my home that my personality, my bent, and my gifts are what they need. And I would say this to you, if you're a step parent, your step kids are who you need right now, who they need right now. If you've adopted or you're doing foster care, those kids, even while they're in your home for a short time, you are the gift that they need. Sometimes I think we think, oh, especially as a step parent, like, oh, I'm not even their parent, I have nothing. No, you do. The people that are in our homes, and it may not even be kids, maybe it's your nieces or nephews, your grandkids. You have a place in their lives. You have things in you that maybe you've struggled with or you've learned, or that God wants to use you in your life because it's your call. You've been called by God specifically for them.
That's a good word. And as you get back to the God calls us and empowers us, think about this. We don't have the power. And we're going to end here today, but the only place you can go to get power is where? You got to take that power cord, which we often plug into a person, or you got to take that power cord and go vertical. That's the only way you're going to get literal power, soul, spiritual power inside. And you pray to God who give you power, and also you pray for protection over your kids. I remember one time our oldest CJ was staying overnight. I don't know, how old was he? 12?
I think he was 11.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to a buddy's house, and, we're like, should we let them stay the night? That whole fear thing, even now, like, I don't know. And it was this kid that we had just met. He was at a Christian school. And I remember CJ saying, I'm super excited. He's got this dish TV. Well, then I'm living in like, oh, my gosh, what are they going to watch tonight? That whole thing. And so he was leaving, and I thought, you feel so out of control, and you're wondering what they're going to be exposed to. And I remember praying, like, God, I'm begging you, God, will you fight for my son? Will you protect him? Will you, just guard him? And God, if there's anything that's going to happen in there that they could watch, I pray that you just break it down. I don't know what you can do. You can do anything, right? So the next day he comes home and I go, how was your night? He goes, yeah, it was okay. We were going to watch this movie, but the whole dish TV thing, it broke. The TV didn't even break. It didn't even work the whole night. I'm like, are you kidding? That's terrible. And was he exposed to other things? Yeah, it doesn't mean he's going to protect every single thing that happens. But for me, it was good. It was like this lesson that God taught me, like, come to me, Ann. I love your kids more than you love your kids. I want to fight for them more than you will fight for them. I will go with them wherever they go, and even if you aren't there. That's such a good reminder, because then we can give them to God and trust him with them.
So here we go. I want you to say this with me. We're going to break down this mission statement. Say this. God calls us and empowers us to do what? You know what the next one is? To train warriors. Say it. All right, so what's that mean? It's basically this, and you've heard Ann and I talked about this many times, but here's the thing. You're not raising your family. You're not doing marriage. You're not doing anything really in life on a romantic balcony. We forget this. We are living on planet Earth in the middle, the 50-yard line of a spiritual war. And I think we just forget there's really an enemy of our soul, and there's an enemy of our kids' soul. And if you're a Christian family trying to do it vertically, doing it God's way, trust me, there are real bullets spiritually flying at your family and your kids. Jesus said, the thief, referring to Satan, literal devil, the thief comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but I have come they may have life and have it to the full. So he's saying there's a reality of this enemy of your soul. And some of you think, so dude, you really believe in a literal Satan? Yeah, you know why? Because I believe in a literal Jesus. You can't have both. You can't have either or. If you believe in Jesus, you have to believe there's an enemy, because Jesus confronted it, cast out demons, the whole thing. So that's real. And so when you think about raising kids just to be happy and popular and successful, it's like, oh, the enemy's got you. Like that's such a low goal. He's like, you don't understand. We're in a war. And God says this, I want to create families who live on mission to send warriors, soldiers, into this battle. He needs more soldiers to go, I want to advance the kingdom of God. How does he do that? Through the vertical family, through the Christian family. Trust me on this, and some of you know this. There are other religions that get this. They tell their people, have kids and raise kids, because we got to send more of our religion into the world to dominate, right? Christians like, if I really want to, I'll have a kid. Like, oh, no, you don't understand. God said, I'm calling you to send warriors into this battle. And if you can't get pregnant, you're infertile. God's saying, maybe he'll either do a miracle. Stephen Paul Andrews, who's speaking right now at Troy campus, couldn't get pregnant for 8 years. And every doctor told him, you'll never get pregnant. And they ended up 4 miracles. Or you mentor others if you never can. We're called to train warriors. There are kids tonight coming to our Breakaway and Edge middle school and high school program right here tonight, right? Guess what our Edge and Breakaway leaders are doing? They're training warriors.
Would you see a warrior as a daughter, too?
Yeah, I'd see it as, a warrior is a mentality of I'm going to battle. That's men and women. It's not just sons, it's daughters as well. I remember we went and watched Bethel do worship at Royal Oak Music Theater back in the spring. Some of you were there. I remember getting in the car and saying to Ann, those women on stage that led worship were warriors with swords in their hands. They led with power, like they were in a battle. I'm like, man, it was so inspiring. I felt like, that the worship was not just singing songs. It was like, we're going to battle for the King of Kings against the Prince of Darkness. So as a mom, as a dad, in every broken situation, like, man, that's the bar. It's so high. It's absolutely crazy, and we forget that perspective.
And so I think what we've tried to do, too, is because we know there's a battle, people in battle, warriors always need a place to come and rest. And so we wanted our home to be the haven. It's like a greenhouse. A greenhouse, what are you doing? You're growing these young saplings, these young plants. And so we try to create an environment, and we'll talk about that more specifically, of really pouring into our kids of what they need, who they are, whose they are. And that's not always easy because often our homes themselves become a battleground. What you do in your relationship, if you're married, is going to be one of the greatest gifts you give to your kids. And then what you pour into them, and it's not going to be perfect by any means. By any means, it won't be perfect. But you're still speaking life into them of who they are and what you see in them. I know that at Christmas, it was Christmas Eve. We had our kids there. Austin and Kendall couldn't be there. But our other kids were there, and we also invited our nephew, his wife, and their daughter. And at the end of dinner, it was unbelievable because we told them, we want to give you guys a gift this year of just saying what we see and appreciate in you, how you've impacted us, and what we see as you as adults of how amazing you are. And so it was cool. Like, I did it, but then it was so funny. Like, I did mine, and then Dave just had one word and a sentence for each person. He carries so much power. And maybe it's because your words aren't as frequent. I'm like constantly babbling. Oh, you're so awesome. And so when Dave, though, when he gives these words, it was like giving them the best present they could have ever had. And each one of them, some of them were teary. And he would just say, here's what I see in you, and thank you for this, and here's the gift that you've been to me this year.
And I got to say, I didn't know Ann was going to share that story. It's not in the notes. And I got to be honest with you, that night, it was Christmas Eve. We had them over for dinner after the 6 p.m. service. And some of you know I had to come back and do an 11 p.m. service. And so when I got home, I was so exhausted from that 3 days that I literally said to myself, we're not doing that. We talked about doing it at dinner. I don't have any energy. I'm not doing it. I can't. I just want to go lay on that couch for 3 hours and recharge so I have something to give to 11 p.m. And I was walking from the kitchen to the dining room, and I prayed a prayer. I'm talking 3 or 4 steps. God, give me the power. Remember what I said? God calls us and empowers us. And so when I sat down and we started to do this little thing, and I had thought about it, but I watched it happen. I experienced the same thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, something holy is happening at our dinner table right now. We're training warriors through words. And even to speak to Edie, who is 4 years old, into her life, it was just this beautiful moment that I almost missed because I didn't think I had enough power. But God calls us. God will empower us to train warriors. To do what? What do these warriors do? It's right there in the Psalm. David said, I pray that they will declare or display the power of God, your mighty acts. So we just wrote it this way, that these warriors would display the power and the love of God. So let me ask you, how does that happen? That happens by them catching it from you. You can't give away what you don't first possess. And it sort of happens in us, and they see it and they experience it and they take it out. But trust me, that isn't perfect, and it's so broken. And we weren't perfect parents, but there's this something that happens in that family that they see, and then they get the chance to live it out and declare it and display the power and hopefully the love of God. And the final part is to the next generation. It's a generation that we will never see. Many of us won't be around to see, grandchildren, great-great-great-great-grandchildren. It's like we get to send a message to a generation we'll never see whether Christ was real or not. How? Through these warriors that we send. That's sort of the big picture vertical family mission. And so all we want to do for the last part is give you one practical step, all right? Leading into next week. Because let me tell you, next week we go real practical, like, okay, how do you deal with the toddler years, 0 to 12? The next week after that, oh my gosh, the teenage years. And then the last week is like, what values you want to be known for as a family? So here's one practical step. But before I give it to you, I want to say this. As we give you this last practical step, we're going to take our offering right now because we're going to end the day sort of worshiping together before we go out to just receive fuel and power to go out and actually live this. So the usher's going to come forward right now. They're going to pass a pouch. If you're new here, you can do whatever you want with that offering. But let me tell you something. The offering is a moment. Think about this, parents and vertical family. You model for your family what matters. People that give back to God financially are saying, God's it. God's number one. He gets a part of my income. That's how I live. And we model that for our kids. So I don't say that's the only reason they do it, but trust me, what you model is what they will actually end up doing later in all areas of our life. So that's sort of how to think about the offering as well. So here's the one action step. All right, you ready? Pray. 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 That's it. Done. And I'm going to pray and we'll go home. No, I'm kidding. I wrote it down this way, is that fall on your knees. I mean, fall on your knees. And the reason we wrote it that way is because falling on your knees is a move of dependence. And I don't literally mean you have to be on your face or on your knees in your home praying, but I tell you, it's not a bad place to be, right? On your knees, kneeling before God, because it's a posture that says, I can't do this without you. So when I say pray, it's in two parts. One is pray that God, I actually wrote it this way, beg God for his power in your own life and beg God to raise your kids. So you pray that God would do something in you, and then you pray that God would do something in them. That's it. And I really think there's a lot of things we'll get into in the following weeks that are very practical. But for this week with this 30,000, sort of vision moment to say, okay, what are we trying to raise? How would we ever raise a warrior who displays the power and love of God to the next generation? God is the only one that can do that. And so I would just say, you fall on your knees and pray. Would you add anything to that?
I was going to say, just being around my grandkids, I said to them, I don't know how I ever spent time with God when my kids were this little. It's just you're so consumed with their lives. But to carve out that time where God speaks to you about your kids, God, I need wisdom. God, I need strength. God, I need patience. God, I need you because I'm about to kill people in my home right now. It's just like to do that all day long, that it becomes a part of just your normal conversation. God is always with us. Why wouldn't we continually talk to him wherever we go? And even when your kids are with you, I'm still continually talking to God out loud whenever my kids are in the house, so that it becomes so normal. It becomes a part of who they are because it's part of who I am. So that's why. Is God fills you up, you can't help but just leak him out. And when I saw myself becoming so frustrated, depressed, like I have no life, my life is horrible, of just getting God's perspective on that helps.
And it is amazing to think. It's really scary to think that our kids are going to become a lot like us. I mean, even in the 10 Commandments, I don't know if you know it, but it says the sins of the father will visit down to the next generation. That's scary. I remember reading that one time to my oldest, CJ, when he was like maybe 9 years old. I said, CJ, what do you think of that? The sins of the father. And he looks at me at 9 years old and he goes, Dad, don't sin. I'm like, you don't even know how wise that statement just was. But on the flip side, most people don't know this as well, but the righteousness of the Father will visit 1,000 generations. So there's both sides. It isn't just a negative, it's a positive. And the truth is, when I fall on my face to beg God for his power, it's because I know that if I'm not living it, the percentages go down lower, that they're going to catch it, because more is caught than taught anyway.
And I was going to say to take your kids with you wherever you go. If you're serving God, if you're doing things, because even at Christmas, being back in the wing with all the kids, I saw dads there with 3 kids. That they're sharing the experiences together, as God's pouring into them, their kids are beside them.
I remember one time I was asked to go speak to a men's retreat right here. Some guys here at Kensington, Orion, were doing a little retreat. And I wasn't a part of it, but they said, would you come over and spend dinner with us and we could ask you questions? We're younger dads, you're an older dad, can we ask you questions? I'd love to do that. And then Cody had just been home from college, and he preached one time at Lake Orion High School. I don't know if you guys remember, it was one of the first ever sermons. He screamed and yelled the whole time, and he was just so fired up. You know, we're like, dude, tone it down a little bit. He's like, what for? You know, so they heard him preach, and they go, hey, could you bring Cody? Is there any way he's around? We'd love to hear a son's perspective. And I go, yeah, he's actually, Cody, you want to go? Yeah, I'll go. So we get there. We sit on two stools like this, and they just ask us questions. And somebody asked Cody, they go, Cody, you're obviously on fire for God right now. What did your dad do to make that happen or to help that to happen? And I remember sitting there thinking, oh, man, there's like hundreds of things he could answer, you know? I'm like, wonder which ones he's going to talk about, you know, all the Bible studies.
He's so funny. He comes up with hundreds. I'd be like, oh, I've done nothing. There's going to be nothing. You know, the self-esteem.
I mean, I didn't think it was like that great, but I thought, man, there are all these things. I was trying to be intentional all these years. And so I look over, and he's like sitting there, and I'm like, geez, he must have so many. He can't even pick, you know? And finally he goes, well, actually, he just did one thing. And I'm like, I didn't say that, but I'm like, one thing? Are you kidding me? You know? And they're like, well, what was that? And he goes, 3 words. He lived it. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, I mean, he wasn't perfect, but I knew what a man of God looked like. It was right there, and I just wanted to be that. I was like, oh my gosh. And again, you know, I didn't live it perfectly. There's all kinds of things where I blew it. But what it reminded me is, oh my gosh, our lives are that powerful. They're going to catch it rather than be taught it.
And
they follow us rather than the way we point, right?
Yes. And there were years, too, that Cody wouldn't have even gone with Dave to that men's thing because he wasn't walking with God. And yet, the thing is, they're always watching. Isn't that just so scary? That's why we have to fall on our knees. And also for them to know that we aren't perfect, but God is. And God is trustworthy even when we fail them.
And the last thing is this: beg God for his power in your own life, but beg God to raise your kids. And I mean it every single day. We pray daily, nightly, even now as grandparents. We prayed for them from day one. You know this. You do the same thing. I fasted 1 day a week for the last 31 years, the day my oldest son was born, for their wives, for their future, for their souls. I mean, and we're just begging God to do what we could never do.
We're praying for our grandkids and grandkids that haven't been born yet.
And so here's an action step for you to pick up today. We have what we call hashtag Family Prayer 30. It's a 30-day family prayer challenge for you. It looks like this. You can go out there, you pick them up on this side of the lobby, take a little picture of yourself. Ann and I did it this morning, and you put it on there. So get a picture of your family, whoever. This is our family right now, just Ann and I. And so we put it on there, and then you open it up. That was us this morning. Yeah, that was right after I got off the plane, you could tell. So the first page is our family mission statement. So it's an assignment for you to sit down with your family and say, let's talk about this. What do we want to be about? And you don't have to write something like we wrote. Maybe take your last name and make it an acrostic. What are the values we want to be known for? Wilson, work hard. I, integrity. L, love God, love others. I mean, do whatever you want.
And honestly, if you're single, to know your mission statement, even now in this phase of your life, if you're a grandparent, I think that this is great for anybody.
And then it'll have day 1. And so for the next 30 days, you as a family may do something you've never done before. And it may be really awkward. It may be a little forced at first, but trust me, God's going to show up in a beautiful way, even though it'll be weird, maybe, if you've never done this, maybe at the dinner table. And just go through this. It's self-explanatory. You do it for 30 days. I've been already told we're going to run out. So many people picked them up after the first service. There aren't enough ready. So you can literally get it online right there. You go to our app. If you don't have our app, you need to download it right now. Go to the Apple Store, go to the Android Store, get the Kensington Church app. You'll see Family Pray 30 right there. You scroll down, it says download the guide, and you can do it all digitally, same thing. It's all right there, so I encourage you
and you can do that through any of your social media.
And so, yeah, and then the last thing I'd say is this. I just want to remind you that the only way it's going to happen in you is if you take steps to have God work in your life. So I would say to the married couples or engaged couples, we're having a vertical marriage conference. We moved it back. It's not February 10th and 11th, Valentine's weekend. It is now March 24th and 25th. Actually, I think that's better. It gives you more time to sign up, and you can go sign up for that right now. It's a Friday night, Saturday. But that'd be a way to say, God, we need you to do in us what we hope you do in them. And so here's how we're going to end the day. We're going to pray for you, and Josh is going to lead us into a moment of worship. But we'd like to do this. We'd like to have all the parents stand up, and we want to pray for the parents. I'm guessing that's going to be a lot of people.
Let's have grandparents too.
Grandparents, parents. If you're pregnant right now, you're a parent. Stand up. And we just want to take just a minute to pray for you, and then again, we're going to lead into worship. God, I pray for these warriors right here. They may not even know they're warriors, but they are warriors for you, and they're raising warriors, or have raised warriors, or raising a second generation of warriors. God, I pray for you to give us a reminder of our high calling and empower us with your power to do what we can't do. God, we can't do this. It's impossible. We will fall flat. We will fail continually. Ann and I have so many times. But God, you can, even in our brokenness, restore. And I know there's some parents and some families without hope. They've lost hope, and their children are in all kinds of different places. God, I pray for hope. I pray that you would bring back and restore what the moths have eaten. You would restore and do something miraculous in and through these families.
And Father, I pray for the parents standing that are feeling like they have failed, that you would help us to forgive ourselves, Lord. Thank you that you renew us, that each morning you give us a new day, new life, new hope. And so, Lord, I pray that you would equip us this 2007. We would walk with you. And that would be the biggest thing we would do, because the rest would flow out of us. And God, would you protect these families from the evil one? Would you guard our children? And from this place, God, will you raise up men and women and boys and girls that'll walk in your power, in your strength, the authority of who you are. They would know who they are, God, because they are your sons and your daughters. And God, that we would see things happen here that would change lives, that our body here would go out and we would change the hearts and lives, that we would be your love, we would be your hands and your feet, your eyes, and you would use us, God, to impact this world for your kingdom. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Yeah, it's 2017, not 2007. Anyway, God knew. Hey, you can stay standing. The rest of you can stand. Josh's going to lead us. We're gonna receive from God and give to God as we get ready to walk out of here.
One of the things I love the most about what Dave and Ann shared today, the vision of this whole mission statement idea. In the very beginning of your talking, you said that if we are firing or aiming at nothing, we'll hit it. And I was thinking about Ephesians 6. In Ephesians 6, Paul says, take up the shield because the enemy is firing arrows at you. And if we don't live in a place of understanding that God's got us and everything, if we don't have this mission, the great thing about a mission statement idea is that in the end of the day, we can rely on the truth of who Jesus is. We can rely on the strength of who Jesus is. And so we're going to sing a song called We Will Not Be Shaken. And my hope is that we can sing this in hope, but we're also singing this saying that because we know that Jesus has our home and our household, that we will not be shaken. He's got a strategy for us. The other day, I was home alone with my boys. And my wife was at work, and I only work one day a week on Sundays. And just kidding. That's what some of you believe, though. But I was praying in the morning. I said, God, what's the scheme of the enemy as I'm at home? And he said, it's for you to be distracted from your boys and not hang out with them, not play with them. And I wish I could tell you the whole time that I played with them, it was super fun and we had a good time. I think I made them cry like 6 times. We had like a Nerf gun war. And but the one thing that was constant through that is God was continuing to say to me, like as this song, because I'm preparing for this song for this weekend, he's continuing to say to me, he's like, man, this is where it's all, like this is what it's all about. This is foundational. That your kids will not be shaken. And Josh, you won't be shaken in the name of Jesus. So when you trust in me and you rely on me and you know the scheme of the enemy, then it's easy to fight against it. And so let's sing this song together today. For we trust in our God, and through His unfailing love, and through His unfailing love, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. Come on, let's sing that again. For we trust. For we trust in our God, and through His unfailing. Come on, every voice, sing. We will not be. We will. Amen. We will not be shaken. Though the battle rages, we'll stand in the fight. Though the armies rise up against us on all sides, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. For in the hour of our darkest days, we won't tremble, we won't be afraid. Hope is rising like the light of dawn. Our God is for us, He has overcome. For we trust in our God, and through His unfailing love, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. Come on, sing that again, every voice. For we trust in our God, and through His unfailing love, we will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. We will not be shaken. No high name, for our God is stronger. He can do all things. This is a line. No higher name we can call, for Jesus is greater. We can do all things. All those against Him will fall, for our God is stronger. He can do all things. No higher name we can call, for Jesus is greater. We can do all things.
tasted the world's more than enough. Its promise is fleeting. Of water and wine, I've emptied the cup and found myself wanting. But there is a well that never runs dry. The water of life, the blood of the vine. All I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one thing, everything I need right now. All I need is you right now. Just one thing I ask, this I will seek, if only to know you, to be where you are, go where you lead. My God, I will follow. The things of this world I've counted as lost. Lay it all down to take up this cross. So I know everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one, everything I need right now. 'Cause all I want is everything you are and nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one, everything to me right now. And I say, oh, I want nothing but to know you and to be with you, my God. And I say, and with everything within me, I will worship you, my God. And all I know is everything I have means. Sing it out. Jesus. Everything I need right now. And all I want is everything you are and nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one, everything to me right now. And all I know is everything I have means nothing. Jesus, if you're not my one, everything to me right now. All I need is you right now.
Yep. Tell you what, I love the line we just sang. And all I want is everything you are and nothing. We just talked about that Wednesday night. Jesus plus nothing. It's all we need. Jesus plus nothing. All I want for 2017. Wouldn't that be the great motto? All I want this year is everything you are and nothing. Because if you're not my one thing, everything I have means nothing. That's the only way vertical family works. It's like, the only thing I can tell you, walk out of here, is that Pray 30 is about Jesus. Jesus, Jesus. You get him, it'll be a brand new year. Everything will be different this year. If this is the year you say, Jesus is my one thing, nothing else. And nothing else means anything in comparison to that. Come back next week. We continue part 2, then part 3, and part 4. Last thing I'll say is this, because I just got a text from Becky, our campus director, and she said, please remind people, if there's any way, and I know there is a way, that you can pick the 8:45 or the 12:15 service, seriously, do it, because this is packed, and it's going to be hard getting in and getting out. Trust me, you're going to be all mean in about 15 minutes, because it's really hard to get in and out of this place. So come at 8:45. We have room there. We have room at 12:15. Again, just a thought for some of you to do that. It creates some more room because people are going to start coming this winter. God bless you. See you next week.